Guardians, welcome to another episode of Destiny 2 Builds. Today, we're diving into the darkness with a build that will leave your enemies trembling in fear. It's time to unleash the power of the Void with the Enter into the Shadows build. This is a Void Hunter build that is all about stealth, power, and destruction. Whether you're sinking into seasonal content or delving into the depths of the newest raid, the Enter into the Shadows build will make you an unstoppable force to be reckoned with. So Guardians, get ready to embrace the darkness and become the ultimate predator, weakening any target in sight and spreading volatility across the field. Remember to leave a like if you found this video helpful, and if you like seeing build videos and other Destiny 2 helpful content, hit that subscribe button. With that being said, let's jump right on into it. The gameplay loop for this build is pretty easy. You have three options: either use a snare bomb and kill a target, finish a target, or dodge to gain invisibility. When exiting invisibility, your void weapons will have volatile rounds, which will inherently trigger invisibility on a kill, leading to infinite invisibility and infinite volatile rounds. And now that you have an easy way to trigger invis, make sure that you finish a target while you're invisible to spread even more volatility, and more importantly, activate Gyrfalcon's intrinsic, giving you 35% more weapon damage. And this weapon damage does stack with weapon surge and weakening, meaning at any given moment, we can have an increase of 89% weapon damage. And depending on your weapon perks, that could go all the way up to 184%, plus the added volatile damage, making it easy to melt any target in your way. So let's dive on into the build and break down how it works. First up for our super, we are taking the Tether and we're taking Deadfall. Tether is the clear option here. While Spectre Blades can be fun, Tether is more practical and helps deal more damage to any target. Tether, and more specifically Deadfall, is the better option. While Mobius Quiver will increase the damage from your super, Deadfall will roughly last twice as long, meaning you and your team will be able to deal more damage overall. And for our abilities, first up we're taking the Vortex Grenade. I find this to be the most consistent grenade out of the bunch, and it does do good damage output. Our grenade isn't super important though, so pick whichever one feels best to you. For our dodge, we're going with Gambler's Dodge. This gives us a dodge that will immediately refund our melee, and since Snare Bomb weakens targets, this will give us another way to activate Gyrfalcons, or an easy way to weaken targets on demand. I find that we're invisible long enough that we can reload our weapons whenever we want, so I don't find Marksman's Dodge to be worth it. And for our melee, there's only one option, and that's Snare Bomb, but it is a good option, because it does cause weakening, so we not only get more damage output from it, but we can also pair it with our aspects to gain even more benefit from it. And the first aspect on our list is going to be the Stylish Executioner. This makes it so that when you defeat a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target, you gain invisibility, and this pairs perfectly, since our melee will easily weaken any target, and Gyrfalcons to make it so that we can start up the process by dodging, using a snare bomb killing a target, killing a volatile target, or getting a finisher. And since we have so many ways to activate invisibility, we truly get to choose how and when we want to take engagements. And as I mentioned, we are gaining invisibility with our dodge, and that comes from our second aspect, Vanishing Step, so that now whenever you do dodge, you gain invisibility. So our dodge will now give us invisibility, but it will also give us back our melee. And this is key since it makes it super easy to activate Gyrfalcons and take advantage of its enhanced finishers. See, when you have Gyrfalcons equipped, you can finish a target while invisible to gain an added 35% weapon damage bonus for 6 seconds. And you're going to have an overshield in your back pocket. The beautiful thing about this is that we can weaken a target to the point where we can finish them off. We dodge to gain invisibility, and then we can easily finish them off to activate this benefit. Since you cause so much damage everywhere, this can happen naturally too. However, this is a guaranteed way to activate it. Not to mention that with this reserve overshield, it's giving you a whopping 500% increased class ability cooldown rate for 10 seconds, making it super easy to continue the cycle of dodging and then finishing a target. All right, let's take a look at the fragments that power up this build even more. First up, Echo of Starvation, so that when we pick up an orb or Void Breach, we're granted Devour. Grenades are useful, so this makes it so that getting kills will give back grenade energy, and it'll also make it so that kills will also fully heal you when you have Devour active, making your survivability skyrocket, since you can easily heal with kills and then go invis whenever you want. And then we're also going to pair that with Echo of Persistence. Since we have so many Void buffs active, we'll take advantage of this to extend their durations by roughly 50%. This will help you stay invisible longer and keep up your Devour, so you can take more time in between getting kills without losing Devour. After that, we are taking Echo of Obscurity, so that finishers grant invisibility. And yes, this is a little bit redundant, though I like this because it's a guaranteed way to gain invisibility, since I would hate to finish a target and expect to get invisibility, but then it not activate. This will also help you in case you don't have any abilities available, since you can weaken a target to the point of finishing, and then finish them off to start that process of invis to volatility. And the final fragment we're choosing is going to be Echo of Cessation, so that finishers will create a burst of void damage, causing nearby targets to become volatile. This also makes it so that defeating a volatile target will create a void breach. We have many ways to gain volatility and inherently create void breaches. These breaches will give back 12% of our dodge and grant us devour. Finishers are a super important part of getting full advantage of Gyrfalcons, so we are speccing into them to grant invisibility and cause more damage and more volatility. Alright, let's talk about ways to improve the build. First up, for our stat mods. We're taking 100 resilience. The added 30% damage resistance is huge in all content, no matter what character. So that's pretty much always going to be your number one unless they nerf it. After that, I'm going for discipline. I like to shoot for 100 discipline. Devour is nice for getting back our grenade, but the vortex grenade itself has a super long cooldown. So I take 100 discipline to shorten it as much as possible. And that way I can also use my grenade to feed into my other abilities, but we'll touch on that later. The other important stats to focus on are going to be strength and mobility. I shoot for roughly 50 to 60 in both of these categories. Our dodge already has a short cooldown, and with the added regen rate from Gyrfalcons and how many void breaches we actually create, we really only need 50 to 60. And the same thing goes for strength. We can dodge to immediately gain back our melee, which makes it super easy to continue that cycle. 50 to 60 really does feel like a sweet spot for both of these. And then pour the rest of the stats into intellect. Having a shorter cooldown on your super is going to be nice, and recovery is honestly kind of useless with this build. So if you could have 0, that'd be great, but with Masterwork armor, you can't. So take as little as possible. All right, for our armor mods, first up, our helmet mods. I am taking Harmonic Siphon. We are going to be using void weapons in this build since we're granted volatile rounds. So we are going to use those to create orbs by getting rapid kills with those void weapons. And this is going to make it easier to get back our super and keep up our surge mods. After that, for the other two mod slots, you actually have two options. I like to either do Special Ammo Finder and Special Ammo Scout, or the heavy versions of both. That way you can create more ammo bricks and spawn more for your team. It really depends on the style of weapons you're going to be taking. You can run double special with this build, and if you are, I recommend Special Ammo Finders instead. But otherwise, if you are running a primary, then just go with the heavy ammo finders. All right, for our arms. First up, we're taking Font of Vigor. We will be using surge mods, so I'm going to pair it with this font mod to give us an added 30 to our strength. This will keep our melee cooldown super short whenever we have armor charge, leading to more weakening, more invis, and more damage. And if you did shoot to 50 to 60, that would put us at 80 to 90, which is going to make that cooldown super short. After that, I'm taking both Momentum Transfer and Bolstering Detonation. Momentum Transfer is going to make it so that grenade damage grants melee ability energy, and Bolstering Detonation is going to make it so that grenade damage grants class ability energy. So now our grenade is going to grant both melee and class ability energy. And Devour helps us get our grenade back super quickly, and this is also why I like to take 100 discipline, so that now whenever we do use our grenades, we're going to get a bump back to both our melee and our class ability. Moving on to the chest mods, we are going to be taking 3 resistance mods. I usually like to take one of each element, and since we are on void, we can take a harmonic to do the void. After that, we can take arc and solar. Alternatively, you could drop one of these for a melee resistance mod. That way, when you're within close range of any target, you're going to get an extra 15% damage resistance, though it's not really necessary. Since you do have invis, you can kind of choose on when you're going to be attacked. Moving on to the legs, first up, I like to take better already. And normally I like to take recuperation for the bump in health. However, since Devour fully heals us, I feel like in this case, it's better to have better already. We can go invis and then pick up an orb, and that'll immediately start healing us back up. And then ads aren't going to be shooting us because we are invisible. And for our other slots, I am going to take Void Weapon Surge. In easy content, I definitely like to take 3 Weapon Surge because we have so much survivability, and I want to get the most damage out of our weapons as possible. Though if you are struggling to stay alive, you can drop one of these and take better already to help with that healing process. But if you're not struggling at all, then always take 3 Void Weapon Surge. All right, moving on to the mark. First up, we're taking Bomber, so that whenever we do dodge, we're going to get back 12% of our grenade. Since I normally like to use my grenade to feed back into our other abilities, now whenever you are dodging, which should be fairly often, you're going to be giving your grenade back more energy, which is going to lead back into more ability energy and help you cycle between all 3 very easily. After that, we are taking Reaper, and this makes it so our next weapon kill, after dodging, will create an orb. We can consistently dodge around to gain invis and then also volatile rounds. So it synergizes perfectly with this build to create more orbs for us and our team. And finally, I am taking Time Dilation. We're using Weapon Surge mods and Font mods, so now our Decaying Armor Charge will last longer. As for the artifact, this season isn't really about Void, so there's not much we can do, but honestly, take the mods that might apply to the situation you're in. Alright, let's talk about weapons. First up, for our kinetic slot, I do like to take a heavy hitter or utility weapon. We mainly use a Void weapon in the second slot as the primary weapon, so this can be a primary or a special weapon. So if you are running double special, remember to put on the Special Ammo Finders instead of the heavy heavy ammo finder. And a few good options for the slot could be the Heritage or Succession. Both are fantastic since they can roll with recombination, which leads to you having one super powerful shot in your back pocket. You can build up recombination to deal extra damage with one shot by getting kills with other weapons that match your subclass, which is going to be super easy to do with this build. Alternatively, you could take a damage dealing weapon for bosses like the scatter signal with controlled burst. And the last option would be a utility weapon like a champion stunner. Great example is going to be the Riptide with chill clip, or you could take a disorienting grenade launcher to make finishers easy to activate when you don't have invisibility. All right, for our energy slot, I love to take an exotic for this slot. There are a ton of fantastic Void exotics. First up being the Graviton Lance. It deals a ton of damage, and with its Void explosions plus volatile rounds, it's a nasty combo to deal massive damage to solo targets and wipe out entire fields of enemies. Collective Obligation is fantastic since it allows you to gain invis whenever you want. You can simply siphon off any of the Void debuffs that you're activating all the time, and then turn around and activate it whenever you want, which will immediately give you invisibility when you kill that target. Buried Bloodline is also immaculate. If you have this catalyst, you can replace the Fragments, Echo of Starvation, and Obscurity, since this weapon alone will give you Devour and cause targets to become weakened, essentially nullifying both of those fragments, giving you more options to choose from when it comes to your fragments. Dead Messenger is also a fantastic option since it can roll with Demo, leading to more ad clearing potential, as well as being easier to reload since we have Devour giving back more grenade energy, as well as your Dead Messenger giving back a ton more grenade energy, which will feed back into all of your other abilities as well. And finally, we have the Wave Splitter. We create a ton of orbs with this build, and this weapon feeds off of orbs. Not to mention the volatile rounds, Gyrfalcon's buff, and Weapon Surge. There are plenty of good options out there for a legendary if you don't want to use the exotic in this slot. The main perks to look out for are going to be Repulsor Brace for easier survivability, or a damage perk like Golden Tricorn to amp up your damage to the max. For our heavy weapon, we're of course taking a Void since we are running Void Weapon Surge, and there are quite a few Void heavy weapons that are good. First up being the Retrofit Escapade or Commemoration. Both can be used as a mix of ad clear and decent boss damage, and using a Void Machine Gun for ad clear is way too much fun with this build. If you're going against a target that calls for a linear, Doom Petitioner is fantastic since it can output some of the most damage a linear has to offer. Not to mention, like I said, we are running Void Weapon Surge. Or if you are looking to run a rocket, Braytech Osprey is a fantastic one. It can also roll with Bipod and Cluster Bomb, so it does decent damage and honestly kind of helps with ad clear with Cluster Bomb. And with Bipod, you're going to have more ammo. And finally, Regnant is on the brink of being one of the best DPS weapons because of auto loading and explosive light. And this will make your first 7 shots deal an increased 60% damage because it's a grenade launcher. And when paired with something like the Scatter Signal, you can dump your mag, let it reload in the background while you ammo dump your Scatter Signal, and then turn around and dump the next mag. And there you have it, Guardians, the Enter the Shadows build, a Void infused masterpiece that will elevate your gameplay to new heights. Whether you're vanishing into thin air, unleashing devastating Void explosions, or boosting your weapon damage to astronomical levels, this build has it all. Don't forget to leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts on the Enter the Shadows build. What would you change or how would you improve it? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel to see more Destiny 2 content. Until next time, Guardians, may the shadows guide your path and the Void be your ally. This is Lucky Mech signing off. See you on the next adventure, Guardians.